What did another person do that accidentally turned you on? Self-checkout is sexy. Don't you think it was done on purpose? I was on the opposing side of this as male though. She kept tickling me and I know it's not exactly manly to squirm away when being poked or tickled, but she was relentless one day, so in an attempt to stop her I went from blocking her fingers to grabbing her wrist and pushing her up against the couch. Hard. I wasn't turned on, cause, well, I hate being tickled, but she was. I had a friend that had brown hair but wanted to dye it to light blonde. She accidentally messed up the process and dyed it to an almost milky white color. Somehow it looked way better, and since then chicks with white hair have been like a magnet to my eyes. Daenerys Targaryen, your jam? Pretty late to the party, but here's mine. The left side of my back, just under my shoulder blade, keeps tightening up and it's incredibly painful. After about 2 months if just dealing with it, the pain became too great. So I finally swallowed my pride and went to the doctor. As I was sitting in the table being examined, the doctor ran his knuckle down my back a few times, checking different muscles and such, until he ran it down smack dab on the exact spot of my reoccurring back pain. The sudden pain it released, followed by a tidal wave of euphoria immediately afterward, causes me to let out some kind sound that was a mix between a painful grunt and a hypersexual moan. My face immediately goes red and I apologize profusely. My doctor had a good chuckle over it and continued with the examination. I've never been into pain of any kind, but if that doctor had hit that spot one more time, I'd have been gay for a day right then and there. I had a similar problem, a stress-related muscle clinch in the middle of my back. I went to a chiropractor, male, like me, and he called in his masseurs. He said it looked like half a golf ball was under my skin. She was a middle-aged woman, about 5 feet tall and 3 feet wide, and worked on nothing but that spot. I walked out of there feeling like I'd just had the best sex of my life. I was sitting with a friend who was teaching me how to tie a bunch of knots and hitches, figure eights, clove hitches, bowline. Then he puts a handcuff knot on me and yanks me to my feet by my wrists. By the look on his face and how fast another friend whipped his head around to look at us, I must have made a noise. Oops. I would have too. Jesus. Come on over. I was a Boy Scout, about to become a Man Scout. I'm turned on just reading this, holy shit. Man, all this time I've been the knot master in my troop and teaching everyone the clove hitch, one-handed bowline, and the double slip sheep shank. I could have been employing these knot skills in different areas of my personal life. In college one of my professors was former federal law enforcement, and he picked me from the class to demonstrate how an interrogation might go. He had me sit in a seat directly across from him and demonstrated how he would slowly move closer and closer to the person being interrogated, up until the point where he had his knee between mine. It's kind of a thing for me now. Dear God, you should have just told him that it was turning you on. Flip the tables on him. Sploosh. Flip the tables on him. Dag, you're turning Emmy on. Couple of construction guys unloaded some things from a delivery truck for us. We had a hand truck there to carry them in ridiculously heavy boxes. They either didn't see or ignored the hand truck and each threw one up over a shoulder like it weighed nothing, then carried them on a long walk around the building to their destination. I couldn't slide one box off the top of the other due to the weight. My coworker and I both had immediate reactions to this and still talk about it years later. A girl I was seeing and I were at her pool. Her mom brought us popsicles. We started eating them but they began to melt. I scarfed mine. She didn't. Her popsicle broke off the stick and fell onto her chest. She quickly ran her hand up her chest to get it. Had to hop in the pool to hide my rager. That's some anime shit right there. He was writing a fictional story, and I was rather invested in it. Then, he killed off one of the main characters and the story ended in a savagely sad turn of events. It was a great plot twist, and I knew it was coming but it still caught me off guard. I jumped up, playfully yelling and throwing soft punches at his arms. It brought a huge smile to his face, and he caught both my arms and held me there. It was 3 a.m. The room was dark. His hands were wrapped tightly around both my tiny wrists. I was in my typical play fight stance, and his bright eyes were locked with mine. He smiled so big. Are you gonna calm down? I have never wanted to kiss someone so badly in my entire life. Did you? Username checks out. I was a drama club kid in high school. We were doing improv practice starting from the scene of one of us threatening the other. I pointed into my partner's face and she grabbed my arm and twisted it over my head, pushing me against the wall. Fuck. Definitely. I can imagine a committee of suits trying to find just the right voice. People ragged on drama kids all the time. But the sheer amount of fucking that went on between my group of friends was staggering. Everybody was getting laid, down to the shy kid who was there to just get out of his shell a little. It's amazing that the pregnancy rate of our town didn't skyrocket after the school year started. When I first met my wife, I was a tourist new to her city. She took charge and showed me all over the city, using need to buy a new purse as an excuse. Most of the summer she took charge on what we were doing. I really appreciated its insight didn't speak the language or know the city. As a guy, I had never been treated like that with dating. Clearly it worked because I put on ring on that fast. Dated a guy who was fantastic in bed. Before the first time we fucked, I was leaning against his bed and he just stood a few feet away unstrapping his watch while he asked me what my hard limits were, not even making eye contact, and immediately after it was off, he pounced on me. Now I just love when people take off watches. Buying watch. Hot. That's really sexy. You know the thing that happens when two people are trying to pass each other in a tight space and you both go the same way a few times in a row and it gets increasingly awkward? A boy I had a crush on ended this by picking me up, turning around and putting me back down gently. I blushed. I wanted him to fuck me. It was a confusing mess. When I was in college there was a fellow student who worked on the campus groundskeeping crew. He wasn't traditionally hot, but had a decent dad bod and this charming Georgia accent. Anyway, one day he was building something outside the girls' dorm and it caught my eye. Other girls noticed too, and soon there was a little crowd of girls silently gathered around the window watching him do his thing. At one point he picked up this giant piece of fencing like it weighed nothing and dropped it somewhere else. There was a collective sigh of appreciation from the room, and one girl whispered, "That was so manly." Her voice broke the spell and we all laughed, but I think we were all super turned on. I found my dad bod doesn't work without strength. I was at the beach in Italy with my youth orchestra and a few of us were playing chicken. One girl who I was into was on my shoulders so I don't was absolutely determined to stay up. After an arduous 10+ minute battle we won. Heard later that she was turned on because she thought I was real strong. I pretended it didn't hurt the next day, but I could barely leave a backpack on my shoulders without pain. As a random stranger over the internet, I'm proud of your body for holding on just long enough. Coworker and I were really good work buddies based in Houston. We were both late 20s at the time. We were sent to another branch for a strategy meeting before they flew us and members of the San Francisco team to England. We flew from Houston to San Francisco. The next day a flight from San Fran to New England, Boston. Then on to London. Basically a ton of sitting and being uncomfortable for hours. So she had some sort of arthritis and was having a flare up and was extremely uncomfortable. She said her legs and feet were driving her crazy on the first flight. Much later on the flight to England, she was on the verge of crying. I said, "What if I rub your legs?" She immediately said please. Spent the next few hours watching a movie and rubbing her legs and feet. She was propped up against the window and had her legs in my lap, raging boner for hours. The flight back she wore shorts and brought lotion out. Asked me to go at it again. Raging boner. Went home to put lotion on your own legs. Raging boner. Opened the window and a breeze rolled in. I just ate a grape and I jizzed in my pants. At the end of The Sixth Sense when Bruce Willis was dead I jizzed in my pants. It puts the lotion on its skin, or it gets a boner again. I have fibromyalgia and have the exact same thing happen to me all the time. Let me tell you, getting your legs rubbed when they flare that badly is equivalent to an orgasm. They practically fucked. Lol, that's what I thought. He got hard. She had an orgasm. That's like 70% of the way to sex. He got hard. She had an orgasm. That's above average sex in my book. She knew. I smelled our waitress perspiring and my whole body reacted. IDKY, but I was insanely turned on. If I pull that mask off, will you die? It would be extremely painful. You're a big guy. For you. My coworker scratched my back with her nails when laughing damn near gave me a chub at work. When you sit with someone by the table and your leg accidentally touches theirs, I have to admit that turns me on. Especially when I'm wearing dress or shorts at that moment. First date, crossing a busy street and he puts his hand on my back round my waist to kind of guide me across, pull me closer to him. It's not a new move by any means, but holy shit, it went from he's cute and sweet to sizzling chemistry right then and there. First day of one of my old jobs, I walk into the control room and meet one of my new bosses. She's really hot. Her perfume is exotic. She's 2 years younger than me. She's able to fire me, and I have to spend 8 hours shadowing her. That day was an endurance contest. At one point her hand accidentally brushed my pants west of the groin area over the pocket. Almost death starred my undergarments right there. When a female friend pulled up her shirt to show me her tummy and ask me something about it. Baggy t-shirt, baggy sports pants, tight stomach, the absolute dream. I have a stomach fetish. A girl in my school had that too. At the time I had a completely flat, toned stomach. This girl would come up to me, lift my top and rub it. She always asked first, and for some strange reason I always accepted. You know why? Baggy t-shirt, baggy sports pants, tight stomach, the absolute dream. I have a stomach fetish. You have a 90s female rapper fetish. The DSM calls it TL-philia. A friend of mine invited me and another friend out for milkshakes, and at one point she got some of hers on her fingertip, so she licked it off. I felt very flustered about this, so I turned to my other friend who was also licking milkshake off her fingertips. Anyway, it turns out I'm a lesbian. Hi, wanna get milkshakes? Afraid I'm engaged to one of the milkshake duo, no less. Score, my current Sue and I met through work. We had a trainer-trainee relationship. I like being dominated, so already his authority turned me on. He trained me for a few weeks and was pretty serious and professional, up until the end. At the end of our shift, I was being stupid and flirtatious and he threatened to slap me. I was like, do it, and tapped my cheek. Much to my delight he did it, lightly, but firmly too. And then when he saw my look of shock, let out the heartiest laugh I'd ever heard from him. I was immediately wet. I could feel my face burning. I had to make up an excuse to step away. Good God. I did find out later he was as hard as a rock during that incident too. Haha, what a keeper. That story is straight out of a Doujin lol. She was playing footsie with me in Spanish class, sitting across from each other, and eventually just set her foot down on my seat between my legs. And then she accidentally kicked my dick hard. It wasn't painful at all, but holy shit, I was hard for hours. I don't know why. Bro, I'm a total loser. It was completely accidental and we were just good friends fucking about in Spanish class. We were just good friends fucking. I wish. I asked her out and she said no. So no fucking. Did it last more than 4 hours? If so, get medical help right away. If not treated immediately, you may stay permanently erect or your skin flute may just fall off. He was working out some complex math problem in his head. I was immediately turned on. You don't need to talk dirty to me. Just do that. 2 + 2 = 4. -1 = 3. Quick maths. One time in dance class in college we were doing partner stretches and this really attractive, but very gay, classmate of mine was my partner. I was in a straddle and he was pushing, laying on my back so that it was flat against the ground. It hurt so good that I had an orgasm. Yeep. Did he know? It seems like it'd be pretty obvious if someone you were laying on had an orgasm. No, he didn't know. I didn't react or move at all. Not hard to do for me. I didn't react or move at all. Maybe I'm better in bed than I thought if this is what an orgasm looks like. Oh god. Dance classes. I took a ballet class, on the logic that 1, strength and grace are sexy, and 2, if you want to bang a ballerina, go to where the ballerinas are. The sexiest woman on the planet was in my class. The same day I skipped wearing my dance belt. I was assigned to critique her form on some leg exercises. Always been a leg man. Her calves were mathematically optimized to destroy my mind, and I immediately got a raging hard on. Of course it was her turn after, and I was wearing tights. There was no hiding it. Luckily she just blushed and didn't seem to think I was a pervert. I felt like a huge pervert, but I lived. Upvote for mathematically optimized to destroy my mind. Exactly how gay are we talk here? Like 8 gay? Damn. That's some serious gay. Wasn't an accident on their part, but usually I don't get turned on easily. I used to have a co-worker at a job and she was stupidly flirtatious. Had a phenomenal ass too. Used to just do cheeky things at work, but one day I leant over behind her to use the tap past her shoulder and she licked down the side of my face. 10 seconds later I feel Fonzie Jr. on the rise, so had to go to the bathroom and sit down for a few minutes to prevent the worst. She was proud of that. Missed working with her. She licked down the side of your face and you avoided her? Bruh, I think you missed the mark there, mate. Not a lot of accidents. But like honestly though, how are you supposed to react to that? Just start making out? End the story with, took her out on a date, had wild animal sex, got married, went our separate ways, instead of miss working with her. Carpe diem, mate. Plot twist, his co-worker was a cat. One time my husband backed our truck into a really small space downtown in one quick sweep. I don't know if it was his impressive precise parking skills or the notion of fitting something so big into such a tight space so smoothly that turned me on. My BF can parallel park a car in seconds and it's really hot to me too. I think mostly the confidence and skill is what gets me. Edit. RIP my notifications. Thank God I know that all of you can drive well are also turned on by men's driving skills. Bit weird lame, but in high school I used to shake my leg up and down a lot for some reason. But I was sitting next to this girl I liked and her leg was basically touching my leg because small shitty desks, so while my leg was shaking it was basically shaking hers, and I guess she liked it because she gave a quiet moan and put her hand on my arm. Teenage me popped quite the chub. Lame my ass, that's pretty hot. Drank water by holding the bottle over his head and pouring it into his mouth. No idea why that turned me on so much. Athletes in high school with the Gatorade bottles. Basically whenever a girl plays with my hair I get strangely turned on, more so than with any man who has ever touched me. Go on. I was seeing a girl that loved dancing but had zero rhythm, and every time she'd flail those arms on the dance floor I would immediately be super attracted to her. To those girls out there that can't dance, keep doing you. Flails arms, why hello. Flails forearms, General Kenobi. I thought I was the only one that found this attractive in girls or mayo. I think it's just the confidence to not give a shit and just have fun about it that attracts me. I was having a tattoo on my back. The tattooist, who was probably the least attractive bloke I've ever met in my life, and I've met some fucking corkers, put a blob of Vaseline on my back to dip into to use during tattooing. Every single time he got more Vaseline on his finger, it was like being touched on the clit. A rush of desire went through me. I could have banged him rigid there and then. Luckily I just bit my lip and let him carry on inking. I had an orgasm during my back tattoo session because of the guy's voice, combined back touching, and vibration from the ink. I let go a whimper when it actually happened and he noticed my entire body clench. He kept his hand on my back, but stopped tattooing. I sheepishly turned around after my legs stopped shaking and said I needed a break. He had the biggest grin of disbelief and asked if I needed water. Edit. Thank you for the gold. That's another unexpected first I can attach to this story. You need to make this his Yelp review. Edit. I am honored. I'd go strictly based on that Yelp review. I'm a dude. No homo or full homo? Deg. I feel like this was probably kind of embarrassing, but it sounds super fucking hot. I'm enjoying the anecdotes of this entire fucking thread. Sigh. This gave me feelings. British intensifies. The username Dargillian Bequeath is kind of the cherry on the Bakewell tart for me. She don't use jelly. Back in college I had very long hair. A group of us went to Dunkin' Donuts and my friend Kate was at the next booth, so my back was to her. She starts playing with my hair and my friend sitting with me said I had a look of utter bliss and contentment. Edit. Looks like I'm not alone. So if you like a guy with long hair, playing with it is a good way to get him interested. Was waiting to find this comment. I fucking love getting my head played with. I walk by or hug someone that smells good, I immediately get turned on. It doesn't matter what their gender is, I just really like people that smell good. For some reason when guys say yes ma'am I get all hot and bothered. Happened to me the other day for the first time. Jokingly told my coworker I'd whip their ass into shape if they didn't stop fucking up my folds. Just a little yes ma'am while looking like a kid who got caught with his hand in the cookie jar. My girlfriend and I were play fighting and I found out she was realitical-ish. We both found out laughter is a huge turn on for me that day. This one I definitely feel. Something about laughter shows how into it she could be. Sometimes my girlfriend will let out a giggle and it makes me instantly harder. What? Settle down. Cheryl. You're not my supervisor. Cheryl Carroll, being really pissed with me after a fight and fucking me anyway. It was so aggressive. It actually turned me on shitloads. Last time I tried to angry sex I scared his boner away. I'm just picturing an erect penis with legs casually walking away all like, well, if that's how it is, I'm going home. Edit. After reading this comment again, for some reason I've added the detail of the penis using the balls as legs. What do you think of this one? Johnson. I believe he's fucking the machine. Sir, we've done it. My ex-girlfriend's perfume still drives me wild. We've been broken up for 3 years, but a teaching assistant at my school was wearing the same perfume while helping me with a term paper. Insert raging boner here, her denying me when I followed her on Instagram. Your sense of smell has one of the closest relationships to memory out of any of your senses. Something you hadn't recalled for years but never really forgot can be stirred up by a familiar smell you were taking in during the creation of your memory. I feel you. I dated an ex through all of high school and my freshman year in college. To this day, almost a decade later, anytime I smell that perfume I go from 0-60 faster than my brain even realizes. I saw a girl at the race in Charlotte yesterday take a sip of water and just spit it on her friend's face. Not really ashamed to say it turned me on because then they just started pouring water all over each other. I think I witnessed this. Then they started throwing ice and this guy started yelling about how if they hit his kid with ice. Holy shit, small world. You saw it? I swear I was a few rows back. Hahaha OMG. That was me and my friends. I was the mostly sober one. But yeah, watching that girl spit in the other girl's face kind of turned me on a bit, lol. Now kiss spit in each other's face. Hold on to me and cry. Kinda feel bad about that one. Story time of my most shameful blowjob. I was kind of seeing this girl. We were into each other but she was moving away. The morning she was moving she came round to mine and we went for a drive somewhere. We were just talking in the car and she ended up crying. I hugged her and stroked her hair and we ended up in a position where she was curled up in a ball with her head resting on my stomach face down towards my dick. Her crying and making me feel good because she was going to miss me so much turned me on and I started to get hard. I was wearing jogging shorts and she must have noticed a bulge appear and she just whipped it out and started sucking my dick. I could feel her tears dripping off her face and onto my balls and thighs and I'm ashamed to say it turned me on. I ended up coming in her mouth and the sound of her swallowing my cum, sniffing back tears and the feel of her tears still falling on me was amazing. She texted me later and said thanks for not stopping her, she wanted to lighten the mood. I don't think any man would convict you. Your Honor, I request this case be dismissed. She texted me later and said thanks for not stopping her. The least used phrase in English is stop sucking my dick. I felt guilty, ashamed and wrong. However, that phrase never crossed my mind, lol. If it makes you feel any better, I am typically insanely turned on by the time I'm done crying. Not OP, but that actually makes me feel a little better. Thanks. I've got this one. I call it a sympathy boner. Morning wood. Affection erection. Me, male, and one of my female friends were at a party and we started to jokingly shit talk each other as friends do. I jokingly respond how dare you and pretend to give an indignant slap that, in reality, was little more than a pat on her cheek. She retorts no, how dare you, and gives one back. Now we're doing fake slaps back and forth but we start getting harder with the slaps and it quickly turns into a game of chicken. I was expecting I'd have to stop from cheek pain. The actual reason I had to stop was because when the game escalated and she gave me the first full force slap across the face I got real turned on. Like, as soon as she struck me, instant hard on. It was a learning moment for Fibonacci fanboy that night. This would be very weird to watch. Slightly relevant. Imgur webpage. Same thing happened to Chris Pratt in a blooper for Parks and Rec YouTube webpage. You know, if Aubrey didn't walk away, I'd have thought it was just part of the script. I've seen this clip before and assumed it was in the script. Oh. Chris Pratt bloopers are seriously the best bloopers from anything. He's so genuinely funny, and the things he does are so shameless, but endearing. Like the P&R blooper where he farts, and then admits that he actually shit himself a little lol. I've always wondered if that was in the script or not. Friend of mine was discussing a particularly good burger. He moaned over how good it was. Instant wed. Innocently beg for something. I have a roommate that will make moaning like noises when he's really enjoying his food. It can be uncomfortable. Primarily cause it's the same sounds I've overheard when his girl is over. He and his girl enjoy food together. What's the problem? A girl can't enjoy a little cream without the Mitchell getting all up in their business about it apparently. Miso has this profound hearty laugh. I usually end up with an erection. Tickle fights are so much better. Miso has this one smile. And when he does it, I'm ready to go. Oddly, he also has few different ways he smiles. And the rest do nothing to me. Sexually. This is the wholesome part of this NSFW thread. Please do not spoil. Met a woman from South France while living in Japan. Massive crush to follow. Back in the States. Was in line at a deli. Some woman behind me starts talking in a southern French accent. Instant public erection. Total Pavlovian response. My friends and I got together a few days before Christmas to make some Christmas cookies. Just to de-stress after a tough year of grad school. We all met at this one girl's house. She had everything all set up. All the ingredients laid out. Everything organized and ready to go. When we finished baking, she cleaned everything and put all the cookies we made into individual Christmas bucket things wrapped up all nicely for each of us. All I could think was, dang, this girl is going to be an amazing mother. It drove me crazy. I've never thought that about anybody else. It's been 2 years and I still think about it sometimes. I used to work at a grocery store. One day a girl around the same age as me said thank you, sir, after I helped her find something. I learned some stuff about myself that day. Shit, I say thank you, sir, to a lot of my coworkers once I work with them long enough. Maybe I should stop. Edit. Of course this is now my top comment. I'm still not sure whether I should try to remove this phrase from my vocabulary. Now that I think about it, I've even had women tell me they liked when I said thank you, mom, to them. Oh, number. Depends. What are your feelings on bowel gags? And robes too? I guess I've been on the other end of this before. I am from the south but I live in the northeast. Basically I always use sir or ma'am when speaking with someone older than I am. Something that isn't super common for people my age to be using regularly also. I'm a barista. Out of habit. Sometimes I'll use sir with men my age. And I distinctly remember one dude's pupils dilated noticeably after I asked, can I get you anything else today? Sir, almost like a cat who's about to pounce. That's what it looked like. And now I know why. Yeah, I lived in the Northeast my whole life and just recently moved to Texas. It was very strange to me to have people call me sir, and it took me a little while to get into the habit of calling people sir or ma'am. Just once, I'd like someone to call me sir without adding, you're making a scene. So one of my friends was calling me and about to get into her car. I said stay off the phone while she drives. So she said yes CIEII in a joke whiny voice like I was bossing her around. That was when I found out being called sir turns me on. I was in middle school riding home on the bus. 4 of us in that bus were playing a truth or dare game from an iPod. One girl was dared to blow into my ear. We all thought it was weird and didn't understand why that was such a big deal. And then she blew in my ear and I immediately understood. Also, coincidentally, got a crush on that very girl shortly after. Leans in. It's free real estate. Ear stuff is the best. When your so bites on your rear and licks behind it and then breathes in it and whispers dirty things into it, you lad. I didn't think it would be sexy either. I live in France and we do lullabies when greeting girls. It's a cheek-to-cheek kiss. To the left and to the right. I was supposed to meet a friend of mine for a movie but she was a bit late so she had run towards the end. When she arrived she was a bit winded and as she leaned in for lullabies she inadvertently exhaled into my ear. It was the sexiest bonjour I ever received. The dude's voice who teaches business stats on Khan Academy. I'm learning nothing. Just tried to see what you mean. Found a vid and happened to skip to this point. YouTube webpage. Dunno if it's who you are talking about but it was amusing in the context. Pretty sure that's Sal Khan. This guy was an essential part of me making it through linear algebra. Sal is basically my internet dad. And he's Ops daddy. Drive. Only Miso makes me horny just from driving. Never been attracted to anyone else doing it, including other people that I've been attracted to for other things. He's just gorgeous when he's driving. My wife gets my heart racing when she drives, too, but it's because she's terrible. No bigger turn on than life-threatening danger. I had a male coworker that started trying to plait my hair, long at the time. When I was on the phone, I was very distracted. Fuck, it was strangely hot. Nothing is more sensual than washing your partner's hair. Charles Boyle. Been there. Sounds cute on paper and probably as if you're good at it, but I constantly got yelled at for doing it wrong. I'd marry any woman that can give a scalp massage like a hairdresser. Yet I'm sure he dug it too. I am disgusted, yet interested. She just sang, her voice is just amazing and I had a crush on her ever since, but I don't think I'll ever see her again after this week. Edit. I asked her, but she doesn't reciprocate. Thank you for all your words encouraging me to do it. I was really hesitant cause the last time I see her is tomorrow at her own birthday party before we leave university for good. So the last thing I wanted to do was to make that memory an awkward one. But I still told her everything this morning and she replied saying we're good friends but she doesn't see me in that way. She's even known I've had a crush on her since October. So it wasn't a huge surprise for her. Honestly, I'm not as heartbroken as I thought I'd be, but I wanted to thank all of you who encouraged me to ask, because I'm sure I wouldn't have done if it wasn't for the support you guys and my other friends gave me. We're going to try and stay as friends after we leave anyway, so we'll see if I do get to see her again. But we live in completely different parts of the country, so who knows? Go for it. Best case, something special starts. Second best, an incredible memory for the rest of your life. Worst case is someone you'll never see again is flattered by the attention and has a great day because of it. She was looking for something on the floor on her hands and knees. Also, she was in running shorts and a shirt. Ah, there you go, the good old running shorts. Nothing tops that. I am the other person. She was intentionally blocking my access to the pantry, so I scooped her up in one arm to get her out of the way. Got into the pantry with my free hand. The fact that I could pick her up so easily turned out to be a huge turn on for her. Was on the receiving end of something similar recently. Fell over while walking down the street like. Embarrassing. Out of nowhere, spectacular high-heeled slip. Suddenly I'm on the floor, half on the road, and I'm just completed stunned when someone comes up behind me and lifts me to my feet like I weigh nothing at all. I turn around expecting helpful dad guy and get athletic girl walking to the gym. Wow, I never liked muscular women. But she was this lithe, really toned, defined arm muscles, yeah. So apparently that's a thing I like. And to top it off, after I thank her, dust myself down and get back to walking, she turns round to smile at me as she's walking off. I need to start going to the gym. Put her hand on my inner thigh accidentally while laughing. I'm straight. She's straight, but it turned me on af. This is even worse when you're actually a lesbian but she's straight. Remember to sort by controversial for the real weird and possibly illegal stuff. Sorting by controversial in AskReddit should be default. When he takes his glasses off and gives me a serious look. Oh fuck. This is usually before sex, but goddamn those beautiful sex eyes get me going. Now every time he takes his glasses off I just can't help but get extremely horny. Also, when we're showering he'll bend his head back a little to wash the shampoo off his head and I'll watch the soap travel down his head, onto his neck, down his chest, and eventually his legs. Gets me going. My girlfriend and I sometimes try the glasses thing on each other, but we're both practically blind without them, so it's usually more like sexily takes off glasses. Trips over coffee table. Miso was sitting on me while I was laying down. We're just talking. She then jokingly said my cock is bigger than yours in this tone, and I just don't know, man. When you're really into sode, with a feeling so pure, it's got you crawling back for more. Cool and denial. On that day you found out you are very competitive. This happens all the time when people I know decide to touch my neck collarbone area for whatever reason. It's extremely sensitive and I have to explain to people every goddamn time to please not touch me there unless you intend to fuck me. What is the percentage of people who does that in order to do you? It is like a flirt move. It's almost always friends who are just messing with me. Every time I have to explain that no, that's a sensitive area. Do not touch me there. My GF is like that. And yes, pretty much every time. Oh no, don't touch me there, that is my no square. My girlfriend has this spot we call the turn on button on her sides. It's definitely stronger on the right side than on the left, but it's on her torso just right below the ribs. I don't know if anyone else is like that since she's the only person I've gotten that intimate with, but maybe it's just an erogenous zone unique to her. I've had to make a phone call to Atlanta for work. The woman I spoke with had the sexiest voice accent I have ever heard before, or since. My voice isn't particularly deep or anything, and like everyone else I think it sounds weird when I hear it in a recording. But like twice a year I will be talking to a female on the phone and they will say, "Oh, wait, wow, you have the best voice," or similar in a really gushy tone. Then they always get embarrassed and apologize for saying something afterward. So I've got that going for me, which is nice. Can you provide some kind of recording of you saying anything? For science. Really? I want it for perverse reasons. Perverse science? Chocolate rain. I've always wanted to hear what my voice sounds like objectively. Hearing myself in recordings and over the phone makes me think that I have a stuttering, whiny voice, but according to my friends it's actually decent and kinda deep. I have no idea if they're just being nice or if I'm being paranoid. Cheap microphones don't tend to pick up the lower frequencies that make a deep voice sound good. I've had someone read back a code to me using the NATO alphabet, A as in alpha, just because of the dreamy voice. It was nice. Are you sure it wasn't that sexy, phonetic alphabet? She didn't even do anything. I smelled her hair conditioner and I got turned on. She was sitting 20 centimeters away from me. Life as a teenage male. Open my window and a breeze rolls in and I jizz in my pants. I'm really pleased that Reddit had your message. So I had to click load more comments for the perfect text punchline timing. I'm really happy I discovered compression shorts as a middle schooler. That and the carrying books in front of you trick. You know what's fun? Walking like a gorilla. Mine was tensing your legs over and over to shift blood flow. Back in college I was standing in the cafeteria talking to two co-workers about some raw stuff. As we finished our conversation, one of my co-workers, a very attractive woman, realizes that the Chipmunks song Christmas Don't Be Late, Yowta webpage, is playing, squeals "I love this song," and walks away singing and dancing to it. After watching her dance away, I turned to my other co-worker, who happened to be one of my closest friends, and muttered, "I've never been turned on by this song before." He looked at me and said under his breath, "You and me both." I still think of her dancing away anytime I hear that song, and it's been over a decade. You know when you accidentally catch someone's eye and people normally glance away embarrassed? Well, she held the gaze and made a nice big smile. Not exactly turned on by it, but it was very nice to be on the receiving end of and extremely memorable. This happened to me for the first time yesterday. It wasn't a turn on for me, but I managed not to glance away like a creep for once. I did this with a conductor on a train once. We ended up dating for 3 years and have a child together. Yeah, my trains are often very late too. In school, this guy in my class put his foot on the back of my desk and jiggles it hard for quite a while. I was so turned on from the vibrations and close to coming, but then he stopped. In high school I put my feet on the bottom part of the desk, school's in web page of the guy in front of me, and he put his arms back and grabbed my calves. I knew he liked me and I didn't feel the same way, but that was hot. I once grabbed a girl's bare ankle when she was sitting behind with her both feet on my chair's hind legs, just because I had the habit of grabbing the chair hind legs, so it was pure accidental. She was like, "Oh," and a giggle. Going straight for the ankles, you horn dog. It's her fault to begin with. Women with bare ankles and the back of their ears showing are harlots. One time a guy who was just a friend massaged my calves while a group of us were watching a movie. I did not expect it to be hot, but it definitely was. This is exactly how I hooked up with a girl one night. I offered to massage her calves. About 10 minutes later she was rubbing my crotch with her foot. I swear I was only trying to be nice and not nice. Sat next to me on a bus. It was winter. She was curvy. The fat of her buttock touched mine. It was cold. I was hard. That comment sounded like poetry, like Edgar Allan Poe or something. Edit. Thank you all for the Edgar Allan puns. Reminded me of This Is Just to Say by William Carlos Williams. I have eaten the plums that were in the icebox, and which you were probably saving for breakfast. Forgive me. They were delicious, so sweet, and so cold. There I sat, simply commuting, bouncing booty down aisle scooting, seat not taken, Her ump now adorns only this and nothing more. Raging hormones, weeping weary, round of buttock, bulging flurry, lacking heat, but firm and hard. Clear my throat and give polite nod. Booty rolling with yonder bus. Inside myself such horrid fuss. Longing for thickness unrequited. Only this and nothing more. I had a friend I worked with that I'd had, and gotten over, a little crush on. Then one day, when it was just the two of us up front in the store, she started going on about some very detailed math about capture rates in Pokemon. Hardcore stats about how easy or hard it was to capture a given Pokemon in a particular game. Right off the top of the dome. I had never been more attracted to her in our 5-ish years of knowing each other than I was in that moment. Seriously had to go find work to do in the back room to calm down a little. I haven't even played a real Pokemon game in a solid 8 years, I think. Didn't get on the Pokemon Go train. Just a good looking, nerdy girl nerding out on something she's clearly super into was like poison ivy's love dust to me. It wasn't accidental but unexpected, but putting a hand on my mouth and push to stop me from making noises while I came, made my orgasm 3 times better. During a slow day at work, a female coworker came up and started giving me a massage for no apparent reason and without warning. She was rubbing my shoulders, and although I was honestly a bit confused and somewhat annoyed that she would just randomly touch me without my permission, we weren't really friendly like that. It felt really good, so I didn't protest. As she was telling me a story, I decided to look up from my phone. The combination of her massage skills, cute voice, and eye contact made me insta-hard. I got super embarrassed and worked vigilantly to get rid of it before she noticed. I think I succeeded, but I'll never know for sure. Edit. Didn't expect so many people to read this, so I just wanna explain a few things. It's possible the girl was into me and I missed obvious signals, but she is super flirty by nature and she has a boyfriend, so I didn't want to get involved in that drama. I was also madly in love with a separate coworker at the time, which caused me to have ridiculously strong tunnel vision. Of course that didn't work out, but that's a different story for a different time. Chief, I think you missed a signal somewhere. So she pulled off her top, pulled one hand onto her boobs and the other hand down the front of her shorts. I got a hard on and was super embarrassed and worked hard to make sure she didn't notice. Yeah, again, you can't really be too sure. She might just be from Canada and being polite. The best course of action is to keep your wits about you and continue to look for signs. Casually explained. What a classic. Some guy's man. Spoiler alert. She was into you. That's the type of shit that happens and you look back 10 years from it and scream fuck. Are you sure she wasn't into you? I can't help but get turned on when my girlfriend cries. I don't understand it. Guessing it's something about her vulnerability, but obviously isn't the best time to be aroused. It's called an affection erection. Literally just took off his sunglasses and smiled at me : Was there an overbearingly loud YEEAAAAAAAR in the background? That only works when you put on sunglasses. In this case it was HAAAEI. I said, hey, what's going on? The definition of oh no, he's hot. Senior year, I had a trig teacher who was 24 and gorgeous. We got on quite well as student and teacher. One day, I was in a particularly shitty mood and tramping down the hallway. Someone called my name in a rather childish fashion. So I shot a glance that conveyed my mood. Then I heard my name in her teacher voice. I whipped around to face her and she growled at me while making a claw gesture with her hand, before telling me to smile. That growl. Oh man, I'll be in my bunk. I feel like you missed an opportunity in one of my top fantasies. The one where you sleep with a teacher and then she loses her job, goes to jail for statutory rape, and ruins the rest of her life. That's a classic. That part is usually left out of the fantasy. Not mine. I always skip the sex part. Oh yeah, testifying under oath is so fucking hot. In the criminal justice system, sexually based offenses are considered especially heinous. In New York City, the dedicated detectives who investigate these vicious felonies are members of an elite squad known as the Special Victims Unit. These are their stories. Bum bum. Did she say rah and then make an XD face? At work, a female co-worker, was pretty attractive, was having some simple trouble, and she, like in a whiny innocent helpless voice, asked for help. Glenn Hoodless. He helped me, and it was just, I dunno, so hot. She knew what she was doing. Yeah, but not the way I would have liked. I overheard her talking to a friend once, and from what I could hear she thought I had a thing for her and she was using that to get me to do stuff for her. How heartless. When a girl is wearing my clothing, something about the size of my hoodie making it look like you're naked underneath, or my hat on your head, just drives me wild. Sue and I met at work. One really stormy day, he was outside wrangling carts and I could see him through the windows from my kiosk. He was working hard, heavy yellow raincoat whipping around, wild beard dripping wet. I could have taken him right then and there. Then the thought hit me, did I secretly have a thing for the dude on the fish sticks box? Oh, this is exactly the bizarre shit I came here for. They think the voice at the Kroger, or other grocery store, self-checkout is sexy and get a little bit turned on by it. The one near me is just a tad throaty and sounds realistic. She sounded so concerned and passionate when she had tell me to place the item in the bag a second time. Oh, I'll place the item in the bag. Alright. I'm a fucking weirdo. Have a crush on a girl right now that died down until I saw her again over a year later. But it originated because I was riding in a canoe with her and 16-year-old me had never met someone else near my age who watched Star Trek. Specifically some of the original series. I had already found her super cute before this conversation, but listening to her talk about why the original Trek was so influential, I had never been more attracted to someone ever before. I didn't see her for just under a year until we met again and she started discussing with me the order in which she watched Star Wars before seeing The Force Awakens. We then moved on to talking about why Duel of the Fates is an amazing soundtrack, and then started talking about the science of Interstellar. This girl checks off all the boxes, and she's hella smart. Ask her out, bruh. For real, you totally should. I was about to touch my friend's laptop and he said in a serious voice, "You break my laptop, I break your finger." I almost said, "Why did that turn me on?" and luckily stopped in time. Good lord. High school physical science teacher. 22-24 years old, fresh out of college and a first year teacher. She looked like a cross between Jennifer Aniston and Meg Ryan. She dressed exactly like Rachel from Friends. I'm sure you can guess the decade. Before the first class started, she's testing her lesson of the day. So there I was watching this beautiful woman vigorously jerking on an iron rod with a handful of wool. I couldn't help but make a rod of my own. My god, that reminds me of this history teacher we had when I was like 15. She was 22 and a first year teacher as well. Good looking to my still developing sexual spidey sense trademark sign. The first day we had her, she was wearing a ever so slightly see-through top and you could see her bra. That made for some good, wholesome fap fodder. Had to sort out my corporate Amex account over the phone. The customer service representative was Indian but must have learned English in Australia. The combination of those accents made it difficult for me to focus on the task at hand. She offered me half of her sandwich because mine got all smashed to pulp in my bag during field work and the egg slices got kinda messed up by the heat. I declined out of politeness, and TBH, if I have cigarettes and water I can last a while without food. IDK if I was turned on in the traditional sense, but damn, that made her super attractive to me. My stomach and heart got simultaneous boners. So, we were playing this game in some underground tunnels where we had two teams which were competing to find an artifact inside of catacombs. If you came across a member of the opposing team, you were supposed to fight, and whoever ended up with their back on the ground lost and had to go to the starting point and start again. But it somehow turned out that one team had mostly girls and one overweight guy, and another team had mostly pretty fit guys, which wasn't particularly fair, but oh well. Anyway, when it came to fighting, of course, guys wouldn't literally punch girls or anything. They'd try not to hurt them but still win. So, there was one guy, and whenever our team would run into theirs, he'd always go for me, and no matter how hard I struggled and tried to win, I'd end up with my back on the ground and him on top of me every time. It's like it was completely effortless for him. So, yeah, that's how I found out that I was into BDSM. Well, not really, I knew before, but this just confirmed it. Cause every time I found myself on the ground with him on top, I just wanted to say fuck me right now. Well, it didn't happen obviously, but I still kept remembering it and fantasizing about that moment for ages. I don't know if it did anything for him though, but I kinda wish it did. Twist, OP is the one overweight guy. Fuck me, I laughed way too hard. And that's how you found out you were into twist endings. No one has any questions about this fucking game? OP. What is this? Where were you? In a dystopian young adult sci-fi novel apparently. The maze rubber girl I was talking to had water heater troubles. I offered to come by and take a look before she called someone that was gonna charge her something crazy to change a heating element. Anyway, arrived. I take a look at it to make sure it wasn't something stupid like a tripped breaker and all the connections were on right. Power going to all the elements. Probably just a dirty heating element which happens on 10-plus-year-old electric water heater. While I'm in there fiddling with stuff, I'm explaining to her daughter what I'm doing and how things work because she seemed curious. As I was leaving, a couple of fire detectors were beeping, so I told her the least I could do was change them out for her. I just need to go to my truck. I got a bunch for random tools and lights in it. Let me walk you to the door, she says. I walk to the door and she presses me against the wall. Hand on penis. If you offer to fix one more thing in this house, I'm going to fuck you in this hallway. Coincidentally, there was a light out in the hallway. I learned a little bit about myself that day. Hung out with a friend and was teasing her. Had my arm around her shoulder, and when I tried tickling her, she grabbed my hand and bit it lightly. That was when I realized I have a biting fetish. Ugh, a good wink from a dude really does it for me. Edit. I guess I should actually include the story. Was watching a friend who was playing DDR to oops. I did it again. He stomped the notes where Britney Spears goes not that innocent. Then turned to wink at me and I just lost all feeling in my legs. To this day, a wink just makes me go all wibbly. Okay, this is going to sound like total BS, but here goes. I was driving north on the I-5 out of Seattle on a sunny afternoon, and between the heat and the glare I was starting to get oozy. I must have started weaving a bit because I noticed blue and reds flashing behind me. Instant panic and I pull over. Then she gets out of the car and starts walking towards me, and between the sun haze, her blonde hair and that trooper's hat, I was expecting a movie soundtrack to kick in. She was gorgeous. She gave me a warning and suggested I grab a coffee. Super sexy memory. Edit. Love the responses. While she may have become one of my fantasies, I doubt the 20-year Canadian with a mullet driving poorly was hers. But we'll never know. My ex-boyfriend's brother, call him Chris, and his then fiancée girlfriend were the most adorably in love couple I have ever met. Anyway, she told us that whenever Chris would talk about them getting married, he would always get a huge boner for no reason. They are married now. Still adorable. I was sitting on a couch my school had in a room that was just for seniors. I was in there for about 20 minutes before she walked in and sat down on the other side of the couch. She decided that she would be more comfortable laying down on the couch, and I know her pretty well. So she lays down like no one else is on the couch and puts her legs across mine. I now know that I'm a leg guy. Edit. This got more attention than I thought it would. This is my first comment to hit over 1.5k upvotes. Thanks. There's something about this particular form of contact intimacy that is just so cute and appealing to me. My ex-girlfriend did this to this guy I suspected she had a crush on, in front of me. We broke up like a month or two later. They are married now. Oof, that's rough. My dude was 17. One of my friends, this cute tiny innocent Muslim girl, was mad at me after she found out the coke I was drinking in class was half bourbon. She slapped me in the face. Instantly I had an awakening kind of moment. Could barely pay attention to her yelling at me for the new few minutes. Another one was when I was 16 at my then crush's place. We were just chilling on the floor. Her place has super soft carpet, and eventually she tried to steal something from my hand, I think. I forget. After some rough housing she ends up on top of me and pins down my arms down by my head. It felt like I was staring up at her for ages. Maybe it was my teenage brain, but I've still never been so turned. I regret not trying something then. Edit. This is in Australia where the legal drinking age is 18, so it's not like third bad. At first I read this as you slipping her a spiked drink, in which case I could see you getting slapped, but that being her reaction to your underage drinking is just hilarious. Goddammit, you Professor Keck, we live in a society of laws. Warp. Also, why do you have a boner? Warp. You done effed up, son. I was working in a deli, promoted to shift leader. I made sure everything was managed for the closing shift. This plain looking girl named Jenny was one of my subordinates. She wasn't unattractive to me, but she was a co-worker dressed in uniform, apron, hairnet, so obviously not hot. I asked her to do a few tasks. She replied, yes, master. Boner time. Fetish acquired. I just imagined him hearing this box achievement unlocked sound and then fetish acquired. Similar situation. But it was Captain. I can't HEEARYOUUU. Captain. WH lives in a pineapple under the sea. SpongeBob SquarePants. Absorbent and yellow and porous is he. Damn, this one I did not expect. You unlocked one new awkward kink. Similarly, I found out I was into BDSM when I asked a girlfriend to do some minor task for me and she replied yes sir. I damn near lost all the blood to my brain. So, in Croatia where I am originally from, we get a lot of tourists at the coastal parts. Tourism has tradition here, so does Galebaranj. Translates to being a seagull. Now, Galabovi, literally seagulls, are local boys and guys who have only one goal. Provide a fun and memorable time for female tourists. We're traditionally conservative, but this might have changed a bit lately, by declaring love and taking the ladies for a little romantic adventure while they're on vacation. Idea is for both parties to have fun. Girls get nice time and guys get a score. Now, why am I writing this? Because your post reminded me of how to recognize a galab. They are mostly very nice looking, athletic guys. Swimmers and water polo players, and they're damn aware of it. So when they see a girl they like, there will be a bit of eye contact, a smile, then he looks behind through the girl and stretches, or, and this is a total giveaway, tucks his hand under the shirt and gently caresses his abs, pulling the shirt up just enough to show what he got. Then he looks a girl straight in the eye, and the game begins. Yes, welcome, and don't forget to bring your euros. Does this make it hard for non-locals to score? Heading there soon. Depends on your game and the place you are visiting. If you're going to a festival or Zrusen, I'd say chances are high, but realistically, it's summer. Everyone is hoping to score. Everyone is at least open to the idea. Galabovi might be a different league, but they also play differently. It's not a one-night stand thing. It's more of a one vacation stand, if that would be a thing. When the girl leaves then they move on. Until then they are happily in love. It's a bit weird, kinda intense, but as a tourist, you might have more luck with girls from your camp, i.e. tourist girls you have something in common. Just find something to bond over. Local girls are typically quite the opposite of Galabovi, less interested in romance with strangers, but of course, it's a generalization. So maybe you'll get lucky, just don't take it too personally if you don't. Miso admitted to me the other day that when I'm angry or pissed off it turns her on like crazy. My junior year in high school, all of the girls in my class put on black lipstick for Halloween. It was then I discovered I had a thing for goth chicks, and I couldn't look anyone in the face or get up from my desk for quite some time. We all hit a low point. My girlfriend is into being dominated a bit, and we were in the prone position and she came and kinda forced me out when she got all tense and wiggly, while on top of her and holding her hair and neck. I growled at her to let me in and she about lost consciousness 10/10. I think that's the most extremely positive and sexually I've seen her, or any other girl ever react to 3 simple words. Vampires keep getting weirder. Well shit, now I'm all turned on. Let me in. The big bad wolf could learn a thing or two from you. The year was 1995. The place was the Palace of Auburn Hills in Michigan. I was 13 or 14. My friend and I had tickets to see them play a show that night. I was really excited to see them live. They were at peak popularity and this was their first big tour in like 5 years maybe. Anyways, we get to our seats and show is about to start. This woman and a group of her friends are a row ahead of us. She had short brown hair, a tiny waist, and very thick ass, black leather jacket and jeans that looked like they were painted on. Didn't think much of it at first until the show started. I was then pretty much fixated on this big bouncing booty right in front of me for the next 3 hours. That was the day I learned I'm an ass man. The day you became a man of culture. Eye contact. He was walking by. I glanced up for half a second, and he just had a look in his eyes that electrified me. Half a second. God damn it. I'm hopeless. First getting to know my now ex. She was quite weird and quirky. One of the many reasons I was crazy about her. Anyway, she would randomly make this odd noise that sounded like a shy karate master going hi-ya in a slightly seductive tone. Skip forward to a few weeks later and we're having sex, doggy style, and I hit a particular spot just right. She lets out the he-I in an incredible sexy moan. Turns out it was a peculiar personal sex noise she had that she casually threw around out in public because she thought it was funny. Was weirdly arousing any time she did it afterward. Gods, I miss her. Had a friend helping me learn some web design. I was trying to make my blog look better. He was an it guy and used to taking over the mouse to do stuff. Every once in a while he would reach to take over the mouse and his hand would cover mine for a split second. Over time I became more aware of how close he was. I started to get flushed and overwhelmed and eventually made an excuse to go home. Accidentally ended up in love with him and now he's my husband. My 5th grade teacher used to bend over my desk to yell at me and I could see down her blouse. I was in love with that woman. A few years back, I dated a pretty hot girl. She was a smoker and used mints for her breath. She would whisper or scream, but usually just whisper, oh fuck during sex. Fast forward a few years after that, one of my coworker is a 45-year dude. He smokes and uses mints. One day I want to show him something on my screen. So he leans in relatively close to my face and whispers oh fuck. Very confusing moment. This is basically the Pavlovian response. Pavlov's fuck buddy. Pavlov's doggy style. Surely, not your proudest fap. Oh fuck. Not me but my so. She said she got turned on when she saw me laying on a hospital bed with an IV in my arm. Her dad told me once she's trying to kill me. I have a reputation as a weirdo since I wear black leather gloves when it's cold out. People joke that they're my murderer gloves and that I'm secretly a serial killer. This guy sitting next to me in my lab section tries on one of my gloves and he's like pretty comfortable. Let's try it out. And then he puts his hand on my throat and starts lightly choking me. A few moments later someone was going on a coffee run and wanted to know if I'd join them. Yeah, just give me a minute. Gotta deal with something. I'm 6 feet 5 inches 280 pounds. And play collegiate football for a small college. My ex who was 5 feet about 100 pounds tied me to the bed while I was napping. I'm a super heavy sleeper, and woke me up by lightly whipping me with a belt. This is how I found out I'm into BDSM. I like being dominant, but I really enjoy being sub. Something about more often than not being the biggest strongest person in a room gets tiresome. I realized it feels good being helpless during sex sometimes. As I was walking into the gym one evening, a dad was walking out with his young daughter, who just had her swimming lesson. She was adorable. He was handsome. And when he told her let's call at Morrison's now to get flowers to surprise mummy, my heart and ovaries exploded. My ex-girlfriend's goth punk sense of fashion made me awkwardly cover more boners than ever before. I miss her. You know who the co-workers are that you can make off-color remarks around. I had a part-time job at Home Depot and a female co-worker in the department next to mine colored her hair and I made joke about the carpet matching the drapes. She didn't miss a beat and waved her hand and said it's linoleum down there. I couldn't get the image out of my head the rest of the day. Bonus. She worked in flooring. Was out with my GF and pointed at something in her direction. She turns and starts sucking my finger. Girlfriend did this out of nowhere for the first time a couple weeks ago. Don't even know how to describe what that's like and I can't explain why it's sexy. All I know is that my heart is racing now just thinking about it. Some person on the metro started talking to me and she was a girl, so I got turned on and imagined our life together. I haven't had sex for like 10 years. Please understand. Edit. My most upvoted comment on Reddit is now about how I haven't had sex for almost 10 years. Thanks Reddit. To be honest, I don't think you're a human being until you've contemplated your marriage and future life with a person you have spent 3 minutes with. I feel less crazy now that I know so many people do that. Reverse situation. Years back my ex and I were walking down a main road. When I finished my Snapple and shattered the bottle in the road. Was 16. I'm sorry, and she without saying a word pushed me into the grass and got on top of me. Turns out the sound of breaking glass is a huge turn on for her and she never told me. Weird. Shatter the glass. You get the ass. A friend was talking to me about how he cut his finger open. Somehow, I got turned on. I was not expecting that. Whoops. 9th grade me. Small class. Everyone knew each other. We were on a school trip and stopped at McDonald's. About to head out so I'd get a milkshake like some others. Machine isn't broke. Miraculously. Introduce girl that people kept shipping me with. She has a milkshake too. Talk to her. Takes a long slurp. Opens mouth to talk. Plenty of milkshake still in it. Closes to swallow. Needless to say, looked like a cum swallow scene. Was pretty hot in 15 Yomi's brain. Does reading this make me a pedophile? Yes. This is FBI. You are now under arrest. No you. Damn. He's good. We need backup. Reading everyone else's comments. Edit. How the frick am I number 3 hottest comment right now? 4 words. My girlfriend has pants that are either extremely comfortable, stretchy, soft fabric, feels good to touch, or extremely uncomfortable, very tough, tight jeans, work pants, no in between. When I'm driving and I go to grab her thigh, and she's in some really comfortable pants, instant turn on. Are you referring to yoga pants? This is fucking embarrassing, so I expect the roasting. I love clowns. Not necessarily in a sexual way. I just love clowning and think clowns are neat. But when you adore something, there's always going to be the weird crossover. So my friends force me to go through this house of horrors with them. I'm the biggest chicken ever, and throughout the entire thing I cried like a baby. Apart from the part where we get to this little circus tent. Suddenly Pennywise. This dude was supposed to be Pennywise but was dressed as the most low budget version of him. Jumped out at us. He ushered us into his little circus tent and asked us if we were having fun. At this point I've perked up because hey, I love clowns. Even scary ones. I shook my head though because apart from this part, I had been hyperventilating to fuck. Then he gets super in my face. Not touching though, they're not allowed to touch. And whispers you are supposed to say yes. Instant boner. Clit boner. Whatever the non-penis term is. He was an attractive young adult, so that definitely helped, but yeah, one of those weird welp I guess I want to fuck clowns now moment. Stick out her tongue. I was in gem class and she wasn't even near me yet I could see it fully extended, which led to a boner. Her tongue wasn't even long. I just have a fetish for tongues and that triggered it. Though if I ever do see some girl in the school sticking out her tongue and it's long, then oh boy, I make a point to look away ASAP if a girl is putting her hair up into a ponytail. If she is even remotely attractive, it immediately sends my brain to I'm about to get head. Ah yes, Pavlov's knob. There was an attractive co-worker subconsciously putting up her hair while she was talking, and she was very confused why the entire male audience was suddenly mesmerized with watching her. There's a girl who has a crush on me in my class. One day she took a guy's tie on, wore it. It clearly laid on top of her massive chest. Since then I'm in love with girls and ties. Edit. Well, unexpectedly my top comment on Reddit is about a tie on massive boobs. Yay. There's a girl who has a crush on me. I wonder what that's like. Capital F. Throwaway account. My girlfriend was giving me a blowjob when she accidentally burped. I've never had an interest in burping or been remotely turned on by it, but for some reason that shit drove me wild. We're pretty open about sexual stuff, so I told her. She laughed and then started doing it on purpose. So now I have an itch burp blowjob fetish. That's cool. My wife farted while sitting on my lap one time. We joked about it being a rumbly nutsack massage, but I'm pretty sure she could feel my raging boner. Yay, that's my main fetish. Luckily my girlfriend is super cool with it. She likes trying new things lol. I've come to terms with the fact that I have strange fetishes and fantasies. She's honestly not much better lol. Just manifests in different directions. Just a couple of freaks in love. God bless you crazy kids. She spoke Swedish. I knew she was Swedish, that she's lived her whole life in Sweden and that she spoke it. However, as soon as I heard her speak Swedish for the first time I got turned on immediately. Alright, how much for the rights? When guys stretch and their shirt rides up so you get a peek at their happy trail. Any girl in any place showed me any kind of attention or kindness and I was turned on. I was seeing a girl from my local college. We were in the same class together and started talking. Fast forward a month and I was at her place after we had gone out on a date that evening. We were on the back patio smoking and making out for a little while and finally we decided it was best I go home. Trying to take things slowish I suppose? Well anyways, as I'm walking in from her back patio, her roommate was in the kitchen putting plates and other dirty silverware in the dishwasher. I looked over the counter and she was in her panties and the lowest cut shirt you could possibly find. Exaggerating. Try and imagine going on to Pornhub and searching down blouse. I shit you not. The real life down blouse happened boys. And fuck me if she didn't know exactly what she was doing with her eat shit grin peering down the side of her face when she looked up and saw me staring. Missed opportunity because I talk to neither of them anymore. Oh well. Edit. Funny how my highest rated comment is about my halfway's ex's slutty roommate. Till watered down blouses. Plot twist. Your girlfriend put her up to it to test your loyalty, or B, set up a three-way, choose your own adventure. She shoved her feet into my face. It wasn't the actual feet itself but the act of doing so that turned me on. Was driving east across Canada. Encountered to my left one of those long trains headed west. Dark-haired train driver, wearing ubiquitous red checked lumberjack shirt, grinned and waved at me. I still remember you. If you are editing this. I used to work with a young, very friendly Muslim girl. She was attractive, but wore a hijab and never anything tight or revealing. One day her hair must have been tangled, so she was at the office front desk with a female receptionist and undid her hijab to wrap it. Elle happened to walk into the office to find out she had gorgeous long waist length hair. She clearly wasn't expecting a man to walk in on them, and she blushed intensely and tried to cover up. Seeing her hair was like walking in on her naked, and I was instantly super turned on. I was buddies with this girl, and she lifted her arms to do something I can't remember, but once she did I caught a glimpse of her bra through her shirt sleeve. We were good friends. I pointed that out expecting a light punch on my arm. Her reaction was to cover the chest with both arms. For some reason the coy reaction was so freaking hot IDKY to this day. They asked me about my day. Wholesome kink. At a friend's house when I was young. He had a pretty older sister. She asked me to get her some water and I did. When I brought it to her, she patted me on the head and said good boy. Woof, that did things to me. At the time I had no idea why it was so hot, and was confused the rest of the day. I woke up the other morning and decided to stretch as you normally do. My husband felt me move, so he repositioned himself by turning over. His stiff Syncave Explorer whacked right onto my hip as if it said good morning. I felt like all the penis needed was a top hat and a cigar. A man I used to love when I would sleep over with my ex and she would keep her ass positioned right on my groin while spooning. I'm a guy. Then she would occasionally grind it during the night without saying anything and let out a sexy little sigh. Led to wake up sex 11/10 times lol. I'm glad to know that works. When I grind back on a dick, 11/10 times I'm trying to get wake up sex. It used to be so hot to BC after she would initiate it, I would start rubbing her nipples and kissing her neck and then boom, I'm in there and she couldn't be any more wet. All without us saying a word to each other and still in that waking up haze. Didn't even give a f about morning breathe lol. He wasn't asleep, he knew exactly what he was doing. Source, am husband. Have given the wife the old top o' the morning to ya. I've mentioned this before on Reddit, but one night I went on a date with a guy I met online who turned out to be a tool. We missed the last bus, so we had to walk. We ended up getting mugged. Bad date got all macho and lippy, and guy mugging him pulled a gun and stuck it in bad date's mouth. Goddamn, Mr. Mugger. That took an unexpected turn. Can't stop laughing, or wondering what happened next. Let's just say the mugger fired his load. I'm wet already. Keep going. Considering you're an old man, I think that means you're done. Well, did you get his number? I'd have been so conflicted. Is she going to turn me in, or am I going to turn her out? Does a dream count? I had a dream me and this hot guy got turned into seahorses, and for those of you who don't know, female seahorses deposit eggs into the males to breed. Hot guy seahorse tells me I have the biggest seahorse dick he's ever seen. So hot, proceed to have weird seahorse sex in various locations in the ocean. Still weirdly proud now that I'm awake. Also the seahorse was Sebastian Stan : Edit. LMAO my highest comment is about having a large seahorse cock and banging Sebastian Stan with it. Still proud. Yeah, Sebastian Stan is all you had to say. This sounds like the premise of a Chuck Tingle story. Sebastian Stan, Bucky, Buck, Horse, Seahorse. This should be the plot for the new Finding Nemo movie. I was sitting on the train going to another borough in the city. Across from me was this cute Asian couple. The girl kept looking over at me between paragraphs. Her, probably, BF was telling her. Anyways, a few stops later the carriage gets packed with a group of loud people who talk about drugs, violence, gossip, etc. And they are into what they are talking about. Loud. As they get louder I notice the guy speaking less and less and noticing the group next to him. The girl gets a bit nervous and catches glances with me more and more often. I don't really mind because I've been around people like this my whole life. As they get louder the girl grips the handle next to her and starts moving her hand up and down it while making more and more eye contact with me. By the last stop she was wiping her knee with her other hand and slowly lifting up her skirt, and biting her lower lip. I was never so confused, aroused, and embarrassed at the same time. I'm a bigger guy and I work behind a bar. One of the women I work with would kinda constant contact barrel roll around me every time she would walk behind me because the space isn't exactly open. It became an in-joke for a while but she started to slow down mid-roll after a while. Turns out I really dig stand-up spooning. When a cute guy wears a leather jacket and does this cute head lilting smile. Fuck, it's not even the sexy smile, just a sweet innocent one, and fuck that turns me on real quick from 0-100 real quick. Or when someone stretches and make that cute little satisfied noise when they do. Bonus if they do a cute wiggle. Went on a career related course. Me and a girl I met there became good friends and we joked around a bunch. One thing she did one day was to talk in a very concerned tone. The type of tone you'd use as a grief counselor. Are you okay? Do you want to talk about it? But instead saying, did you know, random person or celebrity died? He was with us one day, but now he's gone. He was shot through the skull by Al-Qaeda in the most concerned tone she could muster. The combination of proximity, eye contact and a hand on my forearm. I told her she had to stop doing that. It was inadvertently turning me on and she thought I was kidding. I'm not a psycho. The subject matter didn't matter. It was the physical way she was doing it that worked for me. I was fully talked from someone giving me gruesome news about death. A mutual friend that I had met that night for the first time. It was at a house party. I had talked to her most of the night about a bunch of stuff. Things were going well. She was beautiful. Body of a goddess. Charming. Funny. All the boxes checked. She was begin to hip hop like I was in the life of Pablo. Kanye's last album had just dropped at the time. Still only on Tidal, so a lot of people hadn't heard it yet, including me. We went into a truck because she was hotboxing with 2 other people, and they handed her the aux cord. She put on TLOP to show me the album and proceeded to rap at least 3-4 songs straight from memory while looking at me and smiling. Dude, I'm still in lust to this day. Goddamn. Hit my elbow with her big ass titties. In high school I was making out with a girl in the back of a car for about 10-15 minutes. Wasn't even thinking it'd go much further, and then she whispered in my ear, "Are you as turned on as I am?" Well, yeah, now I am absolutely. Sniffed me, behind my ear. For context, it was my wife and we were in the shower, covered in tomato juice. For further context, we had recently encountered a skunk. I had never been sniffed there before, I guess, but it was almost a tickle and very intimate. She wore sandals with pink nail polish. I'm a switch who is primarily dom, but certain triggers can get me real as a bee in a hurry. For example, a stern word from an attractive lady. This being the case, I was at the drive-thru. I forgot to add a soda to my meal, but decided to forego it because it wasn't a big deal. When I pulled up to the window I nearly lost my breath. Smoky eyeliner, dark lipstick, and I swear she was smirking. Plus, the window was high up so she was looking down at me. She told me the total and I handed her my card, but I must have seemed hesitant cause she asked if there was anything else I wanted, and didn't run my card yet. I waved it off and said nothing, which apparently didn't satisfy her. She looked me square in the eye and said, "Tell me." I melted. Immediately, I felt my whole mental state shift all the way down to full sub. It was all I could do to squeak out just a "Baha please." She smiled, said absolutely, ran my card, and closed the window. The whole time I was waiting for my food I sat upright, attentive, hands in my lap, and waiting for my next order. It took till I drove away and parked to shake out of my sub mode. TLDR. Woman at the drive-thru window said, "Tell me," and I became a submissive puddle. Anytime one of my cute co-workers wears sandals. How about socks with sandals? How about Crocs? Username checks out. One time a girl had a normal conversation with me and it was pretty cool. I was talking to a stripper one night and asked her what brought her to Florida. She said a car. This is fucking hilarious. Did you follow up with what state did you come from? And she said Happy. Me and a friend were out doing yard work and it was a hot summer day in Texas. He takes his shirt off and ties it around his arm. It was literally like that bad teenage movie where the guy takes his shirt off and it's like, damn. Also when we were done he put his arm around me and said it's quitting time. Did everything in my power to hide stuff going on down there. Didn't want that to be how I got outed in a small town. My wife used to wear this one brand of perfume for years. I loved the smell of it. Always made me horny and ready for action. She stopped wearing it when it started to react funny with her skin giving her a rash. Fast forward about 10 years and our now teenage daughter discovered that same perfume on her own first time she wore it. I swore my wife was behind me, turned around and almost grabbed my daughter's ass before I realized it wasn't my wife. It has taken a lot of effort to reprogram my brain on that one. Yeah, it'd be telling her you're allergic and to get it out of the house. My best friend of 3 years recently told me that he thought we should hook up. We have always had great chemistry and gotten along on every level, so why not try things out sexually? At first I was super scared, would this ruin our friendship? Did I want to risk that? What if it made things awkward? Well, it's only been a few weeks, but holy fuck, best decision ever. 3 years of constant sexual tension finally gets to be solved and it is so fucking good. Hands down the best sex of my entire life. Every single thing he does or says turns me on in ways I didn't even know possible. Moral of the story, tell him you're interested. I'm kinda pissed we could have been fucking like this for months, but neither of us said anything. Learn from us and do it already. I was visiting some college friends and there was a girl with us that I hadn't met before. Somewhere in conversation she said hey in response to what one of my friends said. I quickly blurted out hay is for horses, to which she replied but grass is cheaper. I think that it was mostly that she matched my wit and sense of humor without meaning to. I tell people that hay is for horses at every opportunity, but she was ready. I wasn't. I was in 10th grade and it was around Christmas time. I brought in a bunch of very thick candy canes and gave them out to the hottest girls. They walked around all day slobbing them during classes. I was my own hero that day, and I like to think a school hero was pretending to jack off. Just last evening I was walking home and a car slowly drove by. Good looking girl inside eyed me up and down, then looked me in the eye and gave me a devilish grin, biting her lower lip. I instantly got hard and as she drove away I had to bend down and pretend I was tying my shoe until my hard-on went away. I have never been irate before and it felt pretty good actually. Haha. I guess all the time in the gym is paying off in other ways. Back in college I was hanging out with my co-ed group of friends in my dorm room. I think it was one of my female friends' first time seeing my room because I remember her being interested in my stuff. She instantly saw the rubber ducky I had on my desk, picked it up, and started squeezing it at me trying to be funny. I didn't know how to react because while other people were laughing, I focused on hiding my erection. Nothing else came out of that friendship, but I learned to stop leaving my duckies out in the open when company came over. God damn it, you always managed to sneak up on me. Just saw the username because of your comment. It was a little confusing up until then. I've been fooled enough times to recognize that it might be a you fucks with ducks comment every time I see the word ducky being used. Yeah, he even has a channel for his commissions on either Pornhub or Yaporn. I forget which. Dude's legit. And she giggled when she found it, and she plucked it from its stand, and she slipped her fingers round it, and she gripped it in her hand. She was smiling when she started, and she held and squeezed it slow, and her lips were slightly parted, as she clutched and looked below. She was squeezing, and the sound of squeezing stuck, and I sat before her wheezing, till she gave me back my duck, and NBSB, quack, sprog and ducks, what a pair. What is this, a crossover episode? Name a more iconic duo. We are all lucky people today. As soon as I saw the words rubber duck I had to check the username and yep. She instantly saw the rubber ducky I had on my desk. Checks username yep. The phrase good boy even jokingly said is so hot. I try to be a gentleman, most of the time, and always try to hold doors for everyone, especially women. Was leaving a restaurant and a group of ladies were approaching, so I did my usual and held it for them. They started to hurry through, and I just released the door when the last one was going through, but she suddenly turned around, I don't know if she forgot something or what. I made a mad grab for the door, and I think she thought that I had left. So we basically met in the middle, and for all intents and purposes we were hugging each other in the doorway. Didn't know her from Eve, and we're smooshed right up against each other, and she doesn't move for a very long second or two, then takes a slow small step backwards, looks at me with this incredible smirk and said, "Well, hello, stranger." Between the physical contact, the smirk and the tone of her voice, instant raging woody, my wife noticed I was pretty flustered, and when I told her why she busted my balls for weeks about it, the wife part really ruins the rest of it. Unfortunately, I have a kink for being messed with in a bratty yet affectionate manner. Even more unfortunate, there's this guy who adopted me as his honorary kid sister, who loves nothing more in life than seeing me fluster stupidly and playing mild, momentary pranks on me, like pretending to be pissed at me for like 2 seconds before cackling and teasing me. My fluster is more like me trying to crawl out of subhead space and look casual, and like I'm not craving being thrust back into looking and feeling like a helpless idiot in front of people I know would never think less of me. The most unfortunate part, he's a kink friend and I'm pretty sure he knows exactly what he's doing. XD. Edit. Did I mention I'm 9 months older than the bastard? XD. My GF doing chores. I'm not one to yell or get particularly vitriolic, especially with my girlfriend, but at one point we were having serious ongoing issues and she mocked me in this goofy voice and I interrupted her and yelled at the top of my lungs, "Don't you fucking mock me, you stupid bitch." She went silent and limp and later admitted she got soaking wet. Things got interesting after that and we learned a lot about ourselves. I'm really glad none of my friends know my Reddit account name. So, I'm trans, male to female, and have been on hormones for about 3 years. Doing that is basically like going through puberty all over again, complete with certain lapses into hormone surges. So I was hanging out with a good friend of mine. Let's call him Tim. Tim comes over, and we're gonna have some drinks and play some games while we wait for Tim's girlfriend to show up. Both are amazing people who have stuck with me through so much. I grab him a beer from my fridge and then I open my freezer to grab the bottle of vodka I have in there, having heard you're supposed to keep it in there for whatever reason. Tim comes over and grabs his beer and says, "Oh, you started keeping your vodka in the freezer?" I nod, and he grins and says, "Good girl," in a casual friendly tone, and my knees nearly buckle. I wasn't expecting it, but goddamn, something about an attractive guy calling me a good girl just made my inside do flip-flops. It was hella tight. I don't think he'd care if he knew this. He'd probably get a laugh out of it. His GF too.